My name's Annie, and I am a nature illustrator, and I would love to share some tips for making drawings outdoors and making drawings that really teach you a lot about what you're looking at. So, the kind of drawings I'm talking about aren't really the kind of art that you might hang on the wall, though I like to, but it's the whole point of making drawings in a nature journal is just to learn about what you're looking at. And so they end up looking a little bit messy, kind of like this. So I'd like to share some tools for making drawings that will teach you as much as possible about what you're looking at. And it will also teach other people who look at your drawings later about the living thing that you were drawing. And so the first one is accurate. So this is the ABCs of science drawing. And so you make things as accurate as you can. And really, that's just as accurate as you can. You do not have to be very good at drawing to get a ton out of drawing this way in a nature journal. And so I was drawing this alder leaf. It was kind of curled up and getting crunchy. And I realized that I wasn't actually being as accurate as I could, so I drew it another time. And that's something that you can keep in mind is drawing things several times. Every time you draw it, especially if it's right after another, you're going to learn a little more each time. And so the second ABC is big. Make it big. This isn't even as big as it could be. It could fill the entire page. And basically, if you're making a tiny squinched up drawing, which is pretty tempting sometimes, especially when it's cold outside like today, you're not going to be able to include as much detail in there. So make it big. Like, don't be afraid to fill the page. Make it colorful if you can. Colored pencils, watercolors, whatever you have on hand if it's colored, then it's a great tool to bring in. So, like, the difference between a drawing like this and a drawing like this is the color really brings it to life. So there we have accurate, big, colorful. And to that I will add detailed. So add as many details as you can. And this is where you really zoom in and look at, like, what does the edge of the leaf look like? You know, is it smooth? Is it serrated? Oh, they're tiny serrations? Oh, how cool. Do the veins on this leaf branch out from the center vein? Do they branch out directly opposite each other? Oh no, they actually branch out alternating, like taking turns all the way down the leaf. So that's what I mean by detailed. And that's your opportunity to just like zoom in and get really, really up close and personal. And then the very last, so there's A, B, C, D, E, and E is for explained. And that really means just adding words. So words and pictures together tell you so much more than pictures on their own, or definitely words on their own. And so words plus pictures sometimes equals like comics, and sometimes it equals scientific drawing. And so right here, as I've drawn this alder leaf, I'm just adding notes that you could never know from the drawing itself. Like, it's crunchy. It was actually crumbling while I was drawing it. There were uneven serrations. That's explaining something that you can get by looking at the drawing itself, but it really like pulls that detail out for you to remember later. And so notes can be it can be anything you notice. And if you're stuck on what to put down, here are 3 prompts to help you. Just, I notice, ... and that'll just get your brain going. Like, what do you notice about this? It's fine if it seems obvious. Like, I notice that this moss is really fuzzy, and then just go from there. And then you can say, I wonder. And that also really kind of gets your mind wondering about, especially I often wonder about how things are connected. Like, I wonder what's under this moss. What do the roots go into? What does it need to thrive? I wonder why licorice fern seems to always grow on maple trees. So I notice, I wonder, and this one I love, it reminds me of. And so these are all just ways to start a sentence. I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of, and I've seen some pretty great it reminds me ofs over the years. And you can make up your own. Like this moss reminds me of a shag carpet. It doesn't have to feel sciencey at all. It just needs to wake up your senses. One cool tool you can use is a zoom bubble to show detail. Here's an example of that. I was drawing foxglove earlier this year, and I could hardly get any detail in here as I was drawing the whole plant, and so I just zoomed in and really kind of geeked out on that one flower head and learned so much about it as I was drawing. So now you have several tools to get you started on scientific drawing. A, accurate, B, big, C, colorful, D, detailed, and E, explained with notes. And I'd love to point out some of my favorite species to draw this time of year, many of which are really interesting to draw any time of year, and how to go about choosing something to draw. Scientists would call this a specimen, that's not too big and not too small. And so salal is a great place to start. Salal is evergreen, so you can find it any time of year, and it grows all over Vashon. And so I have here a branch of salal that seemed like the bush wouldn't miss it too much. I try never to harvest a main branch, but this is a little much. I look at it and my eye kind of goes everywhere, and it's a little big. With time, you could definitely draw it. But what would happen if you just picked a little piece of it? All of a sudden it becomes so much more manageable, and you can really actually notice more details when there's less of it. And so I look for a part of a plant that's really representative of how that plant grows. Like you can see kind of the zigzag way that the salal grows, without having to draw the whole darn bush. Another one that's good all year actually is lichen. This is maybe good for a challenge. There's so much detail in all the different kinds of lichen we have around here. And here, of course, we have 2 different types growing on the same twig. Douglas fir, the cones are everywhere, and they're a lot of fun to draw. They have such great patterns going on, and the cones on their own are fine, but I find it really interesting to look at the whole branch and how, and this is windfall, this just came down in the woods here. So if I'm drawing this, I'm going to learn about like how the cones attach to the branch and how the needles grow. They grow up, they don't grow all the way around a branch like a spruce branch. So if I'm choosing to draw Doug fir, then I might choose about that much of it, that much to draw. And the possibilities are endless. You will find wonderful things in your sit spot, wonderful living things around you, and I hope you have fun and show us your drawings.